the wood, spoken to the forest spirit, and seen visions of her mother. He would lock the fence, bar the doors, spend every night guarding her from the forest he hated. He would fear for her life before she even began to fight. Instead, she chose half-truths, just as he had done for years. I've always known it wasn't sickness. I've always felt it. The grief in you. The secret in this house. Elias's shoulders slumped completely. The last of his resolve crumbled away. He sank into the wooden chair across from her, his aged hands resting flat on the table, palms up as if surrendering to a weight he could no longer carry alone. Slowly, painfully, he began to speak. Your mother was not sick, he whispered, his voice raw with suppressed tears. She was the guardian of the ancient wood. Just as the forest told you. Lila's breath caught. He knew. He knew about the guardians, about the magic, about everything. 20 years ago, the shadow began to rise. Elias continued, his gaze distant, fixed on memories only he could see. The town didn't understand it. They saw the forest twisting, saw animals fleeing, saw crops withering at the edge of the woods, and they blamed the magic. They blamed your mother. She was the only one who could calm it, so they feared her too. When the corruption swelled beyond her control, she made a choice. She bound the shadow to the forest's core with her own life force. It sealed the darkness, but it erased her from every town record, every memory, every story. The people forgot their hero. They only remembered their fear. Tears glistened in his eyes at last, spilling down his weathered cheeks. I couldn't bear for you to grow up hating the forest that killed her, or hating her for leaving you. I thought hiding the truth would protect you. I thought ignorance would keep you safe. Lila's chest ached fiercely, a mix of sorrow and forgiveness flooding her. He had not lied out of cruelty. He had lied out of love, broken and misguided, but love all the same. You thought the forest would take me too, Lila said softly. Elias nodded, his voice breaking. It took everything I had. I couldn't lose you too, Lila. You're all I have left. The pendant pulsed harder against her skin, warm and insistent, as if urging her to speak the full truth, to tell him that the seal was breaking, that shadow was returning, that she had woken the guardian light inside herself. But as she looked at her father's tear-streaked face, his fragile, broken resolve, she could not do it. Not tonight. Tonight, he had finally laid his secrets bare. Tonight, he deserved peace. Instead, Lila reached across the table, placing her hand gently over his. "I'm not going anywhere, Dad. I'm safe." He squeezed her hand tightly, clinging to the reassurance like a lifeline. Outside the cottage window, the last of the sunlight faded completely. Dusk bled into night, and the forest at the edge of town fell into deep, shadowed silence. Somewhere in its ancient depths, the black mist stirred, creeping slowly upward, inching closer to the fragile boundary of elder mist. And hidden beneath Lila's shirt, the emerald stone glowed faint and bright, a tiny spark of light standing between the town and the rising dark. Lila froze mid-step, her breath catching in her throat. She had never heard a voice inside her mind before, not in dreams, not in quiet moments alone, not in the wildest fancies of her childhood. It was warm and calm, devoid of malice, woven from the same gentle energy that hummed through every leaf and root of the ancient wood. It felt older than the mountains, older than the town of Eldermist, older than every story the townsfolk had ever whispered. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice thin and unsteady in the sacred forest silence. Her eyes never left the floating emerald pendant, its glow rippling like liquid light with every beat of her heart. There was no immediate answer, yet the feeling of presence deepened. It wrapped around her like a soft blanket, easing the flicker of fear that had ignited in her chest. The brown rabbit settled on its haunches a few feet away, its dark eyes fixed on her, motionless and watchful, as if it were a silent guardian overseeing this pivotal moment. Slowly, tentatively, Lila lifted her hand. The pendant drifted toward her, no longer hovering above the stone pedestal. It moved without wind, without force, guided by some invisible magic that bent only to the forest's will. When it rested just inches above her open palm, the emerald stone flared brighter for a single heartbeat, sending a warm tingle racing up her fingers, through her wrist, and spreading throughout her entire body. Memories flickered fleeting, fragmented, not her own. She saw a woman with her same chestnut hair and soft hazel eyes, standing in this very forest, holding an identical emerald pendant aloft. The woman smiled, bright and fearless, as wind swirled around her, lifting her long dress and weaving through the ancient tree branches. She saw golden light spilling from the woman's hands, mending cracked stone runes, calming swirling shadows that lurked at the forest's edge. She heard laughter, soft and free, and a promise spoken to the quiet woods. I will protect you. Always. Then the vision shattered, vanishing as quickly as it had come, leaving Lila gasping, her fingers curling tight around the pendant that now settled firmly in her palm. The silver chain was cool against her skin, but the stone burned with a gentle, living warmth. The carved runes on the stone pedestal beneath the tree lit up faintly in response, glowing pale green before fading back to gray stone, as if acknowledging a long lost boundary restored. My mother, Lila breathed, the realization crashing over her like a slow wave. She had only ever seen faded portraits of her mother, Illyrios, hung hidden in the back of her father's wooden wardrobe. The woman in the vision was unmistakably her same facial structure, same faint dimple at the corner of her mouth, same quiet strength in her gaze. All those years of her father's unspoken grief, all those locked away secrets, all the warnings about the forest taking from their family finally clicked into place. Her mother had been here. She had belonged here. Your mother was the last guardian of the wood. The voice returned, clearer now, no longer a vague echo, but a distinct, gentle tone settling directly in her consciousness. Lila's fingers trembled as she closed her hand around the pendant, clutching it to her chest. Guardian of the wood. What does that mean? What happened to her? The forest sighed around her, leaves rustling in a slow, mournful rhythm. The air grew just a little cooler, and the floating specks of light dimmed for a moment, as if the woods themselves mourned the memory of Illyria. 2 decades ago, the shadow deepened. A corruption born from forgotten greed seeped into the forest's core. It twists magic, poisons roots, and devours the light that keeps both wood and town safe. Your mother stood alone to hold it back. Tears pricked at Lila's eyes, stinging the corners of her lashes. She had grown up believing her mother had died of a sudden, unknown illness, a story her father had repeated every time she asked questions. It had been a lie, a protective, broken lie. She didn't get sick, Lila whispered, more statement than question. She sacrificed her light to seal the shadow away. It bound her to the forest's heart and erased her from the town's memory. The people of Elder Mist feared what they could not understand. They blamed the wood, bandit's existence, and buried her legacy to quiet their own fear. Anger mixed with sorrow in Lila's chest, sharp and hot. The town's cowardice, her father's endless silence, the years of unanswered questions, all of it had been rooted in fear, not truth. Her mother had been no victim of a cruel forest. She had been a hero, protecting the very town that had erased her name. And now Lila asked, lifting her chin, staring up at the towering ancient trees that surrounded her. Why am I here? Why give this to me now? The seal is breaking. The shadow stirs again. Your mother's blood runs in your veins. Her light sleeps within you. You are the only one who can take her place. Panic flared in Lila's chest, sudden and sharp. She was no hero, She was just a small town girl who spent her days tending the cottage garden, helping her father polish wooden carvings and staring longingly at a forbidden forest. She had no magic, no courage, no understanding of the ancient forces at play here. "I can't do that," she said quickly, shaking her head. "I'm not like her. I don't know how to protect anything. I don't know how to use magic. You already do." Before Lila could question the words, a faint tremor shook the forest floor beneath her feet. It was subtle, barely noticeable at first, but it grew stronger with every passing second. The soft, sweet scent of wild flowers faded, replaced by a cold, damp rot that clung to the back of her throat. The gentle whispering of the wood dimmed, muffled, as if something dark was drowning it out. The brown rabbit tensed, its ears flattening against its head. It let out a small, frightened squeak and darted back into the underbrush, vanishing into the shadows of the thick ferns. Lila's grip on the pendant tightened. The emerald stone, which had been warm and comforting moments before, began to pulse rapidly, a frantic rhythm that matched the growing unease in the air. She turned slowly, darkening the trees around her. The sunlight filtering through the canopy had turned dim and gray. The floating golden specks of light had vanished entirely. The vibrant green moss on the logs was fading, turning pale and brittle at the edges. The wild bluebells at her feet were wilting, their petals curling inward, losing their color. Something was wrong. Terribly, undeniably wrong. From the deeper, darker heart of the forest, a low, creeping mist began to roll forward. It was not the soft white mist of morning that often draped over elder mist's hills. This mist was thin and black, rising like living smoke, clinging to the forest floor, snaking around tree trunks, and killing every living thing it touched. The grass withered beneath it. The ferns crumpled and turned brown. The faint hum of forest magic died wherever the shadow mist spread. The shadow senses the new guardians awakening. The voice in her mind turned grave, edged with urgency. It comes to test you, to snuff out your light before it can grow strong. Lila's breath caught. Fear coiled tight in her stomach, cold and heavy, but she did not run. Some deep, inherited part of her, some fragment of her mother's courage buried in her blood rooted her to the spot. She lifted her clenched hand, holding the glowing emerald pendant forward, and stared at the approaching shadow mist. "What do I do?" she whispered, voice shaking but steady. "Tell me how to stop it. Trust the light within you. Trust the wood that has always waited for you." The black mist surged forward faster, rolling across the forest floor in a violent wave. It closed in on her position, swallowing the last of the green, leaving light around her, leaving only gray decay in its wake. Lila could feel its hunger, a cold, empty, insatiable craving for warmth, for light, for life. When the shadow was mere feet from her toes, the emerald pendant flared to blinding life. A burst of vivid green light erupted from the stone, shooting outward in a wide circle. It crashed into the black mist with a silent sharp, furious sound that echoed through the silent trees. It recoiled deeper into the dark depths of the wood, shrinking back into the shadows, but it did not disappear entirely. It lingered at the edge of the green light, swirling and waiting, patient and vengeful. It is only a fraction of its power, the voice warned. It will return. Each day the seal weakens. Each night the shadow grows stronger. You have little time to learn. Learn what? Lila wanted to ask. Learn to wield magic. Learn to be a guardian. Learn to carry the weight of a town's safety and an ancient forest's survival on her shoulders. Before she could frame the question, a distant shout cut through the forest's quiet, sharp and panicked. Lila, her father's voice. Cold dread washed over her. She had lost track of time entirely. What had felt like minutes in the magic of the ancient would have stretched into hours in the mortal world of elder mist. The sun was tipping lower in the sky, painting the treetops orange and pink, and her father had noticed her absence. He was searching for her. dark forest depths, at the lingering black shadow mist, waiting in the shadows, and memorize the feeling of the light, the hum of the wood, the weight of the truth she had finally uncovered. I'll come back, she whispered to the forest, to the voice in her mind, to the mother she had never truly known. Then she turned and ran, sprinting back through the ferns and wildflowers toward the broken fence, toward the town of lies and silence, ready to face whatever questions her father would ask. The rain in Shanghai didn't wash things clean, it just made the grime slicker. Lin adjusted the haptic feedback gloves on his hands, wincing as the neon sign of his shop, Demosthenes Repair, flickered overhead. The was burned out, leaving the sign to read Demosthenes' effort. Fitting, he thought. He fixed broken things after all. Specifically, he fixed the broken pasts of people who could afford to forget or remember the hard way. The bell above the door chimed, a harsh analog sound